He brought his mistress to our anniversary party. I smiled because at same exact place I handed him the divorce papers. 10 years of marriage, and Daniel thought he could humiliate me in front of everyone. But he forgot one thing. I was the one who built his empire. And I knew exactly how to burn it down. This isn't a story about heartbreak. It's about revenge. And trust me, he never saw it coming. The crystal champagne flute felt cold in my hand, condensation beating along the edges as I forced a smile and took another sip. The bubbles stung my throat, but I barely noticed. My entire focus was locked onto him. Daniel, my husband of 10 years, standing just a few feet away, his arm draped casually around her waist. Elena. A woman I'd never met before tonight. A woman he'd just introduced to our guests as his newest protégé from the firm. A lie so flimsy it was almost insulting. The way his fingers curled possessively around her hip, the way she laughed a little too loudly at his jokes, the way her manicured nails kept brushing against his sleeve, every tiny gesture screamed the truth. He wasn't even trying to hide it. And that was the worst part. Because tonight wasn't just any party. Tonight was our 10th wedding anniversary. The celebration I had spent months planning. The guest list, the catering, the venue, our penthouse, because Daniel insisted on showing off. I'd even worn the emerald earrings he'd given me on our 5th anniversary, thinking, stupidly, that tonight would be special. And then she walked in. On his arm. Dressed in a slinky silver gown that clung to every curve, her dark hair cascading in perfect waves. She looked like she belonged in a magazine spread. And I was the fool standing by the hors d'oeuvres table, gripping my glass too tight, wondering how the hell I'd missed the signs. Because there had to have been signs. The late nights at the office. The sudden business trips to Miami. The way he'd started locking his phone. The way he flinched when I touched him like my skin burned him. I'd dismissed it all. Stress. Work pressure. Midlife nonsense. But this was a slap in the face. A calculated humiliation. Because he knew I'd see them. He knew I'd figure it out. And yet he'd brought her here into our home in front of our friends on our anniversary. As if he wanted me to know. As if he didn't care. My best friend, Naomi, appeared at my side, her dark eyes sharp with fury. Lydia, she hissed under her breath, tell me I'm imagining things. I didn't answer. Because what was there to say? That my husband had just paraded his mistress in front of me like some kind of trophy? That he was smirking as he poured her a drink, his thumb stroking the stem of the glass in a way that made my stomach twist? Naomi followed my gaze, her lips pressing into a thin line. Oh hell no. I grabbed her wrist before she could storm over. Don't. She gaped at me. Lydia, I know what he's doing. My voice was eerily calm. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just an affair. This was a power play. Daniel had always loved an audience. Loved being admired. Loved the way people looked at him. The golden boy, the self-made millionaire, the charming husband. But I'd seen the cracks. The debts he hid. The deals that only worked because I smoothed them over. The way his entire empire was built on my family connections. Now he thought he didn't need me anymore. Now he thought he could toss me aside. Now he thought I'd just let him. I set my champagne flute down with deliberate precision. Naomi watched me wary. What are you thinking? I smiled. A real one this time. I'm thinking, I said softly, that Daniel is about to learn a very important lesson. Because if he wanted a war, I'd give him one. And I wouldn't just win. I'd destroy him. The party ended at midnight. Daniel didn't come to bed. I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the muffled sounds of laughter from the guest room down the hall. His protégé had had too much to drink, apparently. How convenient. My fingers curled into the silk sheets, nails biting into my palms. Every giggle, every whisper, every creak of the floorboards was a fresh stab between my ribs. But I didn't move. Didn't scream. Didn't burst in there like some heartbroken cliché. No. I let them think they'd won. Because the best revenge wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. And I'd spent 10 years learning exactly how Daniel's empire worked. The guest room door clicked shut. Soft footsteps patted down the hallway. The shower turned on. I sat up, reached for my phone and dialed a number I'd memorized years ago. Marcus answered on the second ring. Lydia. No greeting. Just my name heavy with understanding. He brought her here, I said, my voice perfectly steady. A beat of silence. Then, I'll be at the office in an hour. I hung up. The shower was still running when I slipped out of bed, dressed in a sleek black pantsuit, my armor, and left without a note. Marcus slid a file across the polished mahogany desk. You're sure? I didn't bother opening it. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. His jaw tightened. Marcus had been my father's lawyer before he was mine. He'd seen Daniel's rise, and he knew exactly how much of it was built on my family's backing. All right. Let's talk about the money first. I smiled. Because I'd been waiting for this. Daniel loved playing the self-made mogul, but he had the financial discipline of a teenager with a trust fund. I was the one who'd structured his company's liquidity. I was the one who'd quietly moved assets when his reckless deals backfired. And I was the one who'd spent the past 6 months rerouting funds into accounts he didn't know existed. He's leveraged to the hilt, I said, tapping the file. The new Miami office? The yacht? All collateralized against our joint holdings. Marcus leaned forward. And you still have signing authority on everything. Everything. A slow, grim smile spread across his face. Then let's start with the bank. The bank manager, a nervous man named Reynolds, kept adjusting his tie as Marcus laid out the paperwork. Mrs. Whitmore, I'll need to confirm with Mr. Whitmore before. That won't be necessary. I slid a document across the table. Our joint account agreement, section 4.2. Either party may withdraw or transfer funds without notice. His Adam's apple bobbed. But the amount you're requesting is well within our liquidity. I smiled sweetly. Unless there's a problem? Reynolds swallowed. No, ma'am. By noon, $2.8 million had vanished from our shared accounts. By 2 p.m., I'd liquidated Daniel's secret brokerage portfolio, the one he thought I didn't know about, the one he'd been stuffing with cash for her. And by 4 p.m., I froze every line of credit he had. The morning after I froze Daniel's accounts, I woke up to 17 missed calls. I silenced my phone, stretched leisurely across our absurdly expensive Egyptian cotton sheets, and ordered avocado toast from the cafe downstairs, on his now-declined platinum Amex. The petty joy of that small rejection warmed me more than the sunlight streaming through the windows. But petty wasn't the goal. Annihilation was. And today was about dismantling Daniel's most prized possession. His reputation. Naomi met me at the terrace overlooking the golf course, her designer sunglasses glinting in the sunlight. You look terrifyingly calm, she said, stirring her iced tea. I feel terrifyingly calm. I slid into the seat across from her and pulled out a manila folder. Her perfectly sculpted brows shot up. Do I want to know? Daniel's been funneling company funds into a shell corporation called Marlowe Holdings. I flipped open the folder to reveal wire transfers, invoices, and, most damning, a lease agreement for a Miami Beach condo under Elena's name. Naomi let out a low whistle. Oh, he's stupid. And his little protégé isn't as discreet as she thinks. I tapped a highlighted email chain where Elena bragged to a friend about her sugar CO buying her a Birkin. She used her work email. Naomi fanned herself with the papers. So what's the play? Anonymous tipped to the board. I smiled. Better. We're telling Margaret first. Naomi's grin turned feral. Margaret Whitmore, Daniel's iron-spined mother and the real reason his first investor backed him. The woman who'd pulled me aside at our wedding and said, if he ever screws up, you call me first. Today I was cashing in that promise. Margaret didn't gasp. Didn't flinch. Just methodically reviewed every document while her lobster salad went untouched. Finally, she looked up, her steel-gray eyes sharp. How long? 6 months at least. I sipped my sparkling water. He's gotten sloppy. She exhaled through her nose, a bull about to charge. The board meets Thursday. I know. He'll lie. I tilted my head. Will you? A beat of silence. Then she slid the folder into her Birkin. No. Game. Set. Checkmate. I didn't need to go to Daniel's firm. But God, I wanted to. The receptionist paled when I strode in. And Mrs. Whitmore. Daniel's in a... I'm not here for him. I smiled sweetly. Elena's desk? The girl pointed like I'd held a gun to her head. Elena looked up from her computer, her perfectly contoured face freezing mid-smirk. Lydia. What a surprise. I dropped a printed copy of her Birkin email on her desk. You should really use personal email for trash talk, sweetheart. Her manicured fingers trembled as she scanned the page. This is out of context. Funny. The board won't think so. I leaned in, lowering my voice. Tell me, how's that Miami condo? Utilities included in your severance package. Her breath hitched. I left before she could answer. Daniel was waiting, his tie loose, his hair disheveled like he'd been pulling at it. What did you do? He snarled. I hung up my coat, taking my time. Oh, which part? The board just called an emergency audit. But Margaret moves fast. His face went slack. Pie mother knows? I finally turned to him, tilting my head. Did you really think she'd pick you over me? For the first time in a decade, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. Good. Because tomorrow, the real fun began. The email hit Daniel's company servers at 8:01 a.m. the next morning. I knew because I sent it. Subject: urgent. FYI, Marlowe Holdings and unauthorized transfers. To board members, CFO, senior partners. CC. legal@whitmorecapital.com. Attachment: Miami condo decisions.pdf. The body of the email was just 4 words. Thought you should know. By 8:15 a.m., Daniel's phone was blowing up. By 8:30, Elena was escorted out of the building by security. And by 9 o'clock, the first investor had pulled out. I watched it all unfold from my laptop at a corner table in the cafe across the street, sipping a latte with the serene calm of a woman who had just lit the fuse and stepped back to watch the fireworks. Elena stormed out of the building in tears, her designer heels clicking furiously against the pavement as she yanked out her phone. I didn't need to hear the conversation to know who she was calling. Daniel. But Daniel wasn't answering. Because Daniel was currently locked in a conference room, sweating through his custom Tom Ford suit while the board tore into him. I took a slow sip of my coffee, savoring the moment. Then I texted Naomi. She's outside. Time for phase 2. Naomi's reply was instant. Already on it. Meet you at the car in 5. I closed my laptop, dropped a 20 on the table and strolled out just in time to see Naomi, dressed in her sharpest power suit, approach Elena with a smile that could cut glass. Elena Torres? Naomi extended a hand. Naomi Reyes. The New York Times. I'd love to get your side of the story. Elena's face went sheet white. I slipped into the waiting town car, grinning. Daniel's CFO Richard had been my father's golf buddy for 20 years. Which was why he was the one who forwarded me the emergency board meeting minutes. They're voting to suspend him pending investigation. Also attached, his resignation letter. Drafted in advance. Just needs his signature. I scrolled through the document, my lips curving. Effective immediately, voluntary step down. Personal reasons. The corporate equivalent of being shoved out the back door with a gag in your mouth. I texted back. Tell them to add a clause about full repayment of misallocated funds. And CC Margaret. Richard's reply was a single thumbs up emoji. Mate. I was halfway through a bottle of Riesling when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I answered on the 3rd ring. You ruined me. Elena's voice was raw with fury. I took a leisurely sip of wine. No, darling. Daniel ruined you. I just turned on the lights so everyone could see. A sharp inhale. Then quieter. He promised me. Oh, sweetheart. I laughed. He promised me too. In a church. In front of 300 people. Silence. I swirled my glass. Tell me, did he mention the prenup? The one where he gets nothing if he's caught cheating. A choked gasp. Thought not. I hung up. Daniel came home with bloodshot eyes and a half-empty bottle of whiskey in his hand. Yelling at first, "What have you done? Do you have any idea?" Then he pleaded. "Lydia, please." His voice cracked. I'll end it with her. I'll give you anything. Just call off the board. The investors." I set down my wine glass with a soft clink. Too late. His knees actually buckled. He slumped into the armchair like a marionette with cut strings. "You're destroying me." I stood, smoothing my skirt. "No, Daniel. You did that." I paused at the doorway. "Sleep well. Tomorrow's going to be brutal." The New York Times article dropped at dawn. Whitmore Capital CEO steps down amid financial irregularities. Alleged affair with employee. I read it in bed, propped up on silk pillows, the glow of my tablet illuminating my smirk. Naomi had outdone herself. The piece was a masterclass in implication. Just enough facts to be undeniable, just enough mystery to invite speculation. And right there, buried in the fourth paragraph. Sources confirm the employee in question, Elena Torres, was abruptly terminated yesterday following an internal audit revealing unauthorized company expenditures tied to her name. No outright accusation. No messy defamation. Just cold, hard consequences. My phone buzzed. Naomi. Front page, baby. Also check TMZ. I switched tabs. There she was. Elena, caught mid-sob outside her apartment building, oversized sunglasses doing nothing to hide the tear tracks down her cheeks. The headline was ruthless. Mistress meltdown. Fired, protégé, flees after CEO scandal explodes. I exhaled, slow and satisfied. Daniel's former assistant Claire had always liked me more than him. Which was why she texted me the second the press started calling the office. CNN just called. Wall Street Journal too. Also, Elena's in the lobby. Says she needs to talk to Daniel. Security's holding her but thought you'd want to know. I replied while scrolling through the nosedive of Whitmore Capital's stock price. Let her wait. And Claire? Update your LinkedIn. Attached. A glowing recommendation letter. With my personal email as the contact. Her response was a single word. I knew Elena would crack. I just didn't expect her to do it on camera. Naomi's text came with a link to a live feed. She's doing a press conference. This is gold. I clicked just in time to see Elena, red-eyed but defiant, standing on the steps of her lawyer's office. Completely blindsided, she sniffed. Daniel Whitmore led me to believe his marriage was over. He promised me. The reporters pounced. Did he use company funds to finance your relationship? Were you aware of the financial discrepancies? Any comment on the Miami condo lease? Elena's face twisted. Then the fatal misstep. It wasn't just me. He's been doing this for years. I nearly choked on my tea. Daniel, you picked a terrible liar. Margaret Whitmore didn't raise fools. By lunchtime, Daniel's own mother had released a statement to Forbes. The Whitmore family is deeply troubled by these allegations. We fully support the board's investigation and will ensure all misallocated funds are repaid immediately. Translation: he's on his own. My phone lit up with a call from Marcus. You watching this? He asked, sounding vaguely awed. Like Wimbledon, I said. Good. Because we just got this. A PDF popped up on my screen, a frantic email from Daniel's lawyer, begging for confidential negotiations. I laughed. Tell them we'll meet. At the firm. Tomorrow. Marcus hesitated. You sure? We could bury him today. Oh, I don't want to bury him yet. I clicked off the TV, where Elena was now ugly crying into a handkerchief. I want to watch him dig his own grave. Daniel didn't knock. Just stood in the foyer hollow-eyed, his once perfect hair greasy and unkempt. I sipped my bourbon. You look like hell. He didn't flinch. They're suing me. Who isn't? A muscle in his jaw twitched. Lydia. Please. I set down my glass. You brought her to our home. On our anniversary. My voice didn't shake. Did you really think I'd let that slide? For the first time he looked at me. Really looked. And what he saw must have terrified him because he took a step back. You're not the woman I married, he whispered. I smiled. No, Daniel. I'm what she became after you betrayed her. Then I closed the door in his face. The morning of the meeting with Daniel's lawyers, I dressed like I was going to war. A tailored white Valentino blazer. Black stilettos sharp enough to draw blood. Hair pinned back in a flawless chignon. I looked in the mirror and smiled. This was the version of Lydia Whitmore that Daniel had forgotten existed. The woman who'd built him, who'd smoothed his edges, who'd made sure his empire never crumbled. And today I'd remind him exactly what happened when he crossed her. The conference room smelled like expensive leather and fear. Daniel's lawyer, a sweaty bulldog of a man named Harris, kept adjusting his tie as Marcus laid out the terms. Full division of assets as per the prenup, Marcus said, sliding a document across the table. Including the penthouse, the Hamptons property, and 60% of liquid holdings. Harris choked. 60? That's generous, I cut in sweetly. Considering the alternative is criminal embezzlement charges. Daniel, sitting across from me in a wrinkled shirt, finally spoke. His voice was hoarse. You wouldn't. I met his gaze. Try me. A beat of silence. Then Harris muttered, We'll need time to review. Marcus smiled. You have until noon. I knew Daniel would try to corner me. He intercepted me in the hallway outside the restrooms, his breath smelling like stale coffee and desperation. Lydia. Please. His fingers brushed my wrist. Let's talk. Just us. I didn't pull away. Just tilted my head. What could you possibly say? I love you. I laughed. A sharp, brittle sound. No, Daniel. You love winning. And baby. I leaned in close enough to whisper. You just lost. His face crumpled. I walked away before he could see my smile. Daniel scrawled his name like a man signing his own death warrant. Harris shoved the papers back, scowling. This is extortion. Marcus didn't blink. It's justice. I stood, smoothing my blazer. One last thing. I pulled an envelope from my bag, thick, cream-colored, embossed with the name of the hotel where we'd celebrated our first anniversary. You're cordially invited. Daniel's hands shook as he opened it. Tonight. 8 p.m. The Pierre Hotel. Black tie. No explanation. No RSVP. Just a date, a time, and a silent challenge. Dare to show your face. Naomi zipped me into a backless black gown that could have doubled as armor. You sure you want him there? I fastened my diamond earrings. I want everyone there. And they came. Margaret, stone-faced in Chanel. The Whitmore Capital board members, whispering behind their cocktails. Daniel's golf buddies shifting uncomfortably in their tuxes. Even Elena lurked near the bar, her eyes red-rimmed. But the star of the show? Daniel. Trembling. Staring at me like I was a ghost. I waited until the champagne was poured. Until the room fell silent. Until every eye was on me. Then I raised my glass. 10 years ago, I said, my voice carrying, I stood in this very room and vowed to love Daniel Whitmore for better or worse. Pause. Turns out worse was this. I nodded to Marcus. He stepped forward, handing Daniel a single sheet of paper. The room held its breath. Daniel's face went ashen as he read aloud. Final decree of divorce. Granted. A gasp rippled through the crowd. I took a sip of champagne. Happy anniversary, darling. The silence in the ballroom was so thick I could hear the ice melting in abandoned champagne glasses. Daniel stood frozen, the divorce decree trembling in his hands, his face a mask of stunned humiliation. The guests, our supposed friends, his colleagues, even his mother, stared at him like he was a stranger. No worse. Like he was a failure. And then came the whispers. He really thought she wouldn't find out? I heard he drained company funds for that girl. Margaret looks like she wants to disown him. I let them swirl. Let them fester. Then with a slow, deliberate sip of Dom Perignon, I turned and walked out. The party was over. But the punishment? That was just beginning. Daniel's financial house of cards collapsed faster than I expected. By Monday morning, Whitmore Capital's stock had plummeted 62%. By noon, creditors were circling. And by 3 p.m. the first bankruptcy notice hit my inbox, courtesy of Marcus. I read it twice, savoring every word. Chapter 11. Liquidation of assets. Personal guarantees called in. Daniel wasn't just losing the company. He was losing everything. I texted Naomi. Remember that beach house in Malibu he bought for us, but never let me decorate? Yeah. Put in an offer. Lowball him. Her reply was instant. Already did. 30 cents on the dollar. He'll take it. I smiled. Because that was the thing about desperation. It made even proud men negotiable. Elena's tall interview aired at prime time. I watched it with a bowl of popcorn, feet propped up on the couch Naomi and I had just bought with the proceeds from selling Daniel's vintage Rolex collection. Auction houses move fast when they smell blood. On screen, Elena dabbed at her eyes. He lied to me. Said they were practically separated. Said the money was his. The interviewer leaned in. And the condo? The Birkin bags. Elena's face twisted. I earned those. Naomi snorted. Yeah, just not at work. I muted the TV as Elena started sobbing. Daniel's downfall was public. His mistress's betrayal was poetic. The first time Daniel called, I let it go to voicemail. The second time I answered. Lydia. His voice was ragged. Please. I need help. I painted my toenails coral as he rambled. The lawsuits, the frozen accounts, the humiliation of moving into a studio apartment. When he finally ran out of words, I sighed. Oh, Daniel. Did you really think I'd save you? A choked silence. Then so quiet I almost missed it. I miss you. I hung up. The eviction notice came on a Tuesday. Daniel's last asset, the penthouse we had shared, was officially mine. And since he'd stopped paying rent, shocking given his zero income, the lawyers had kindly given him 72 hours to vacate. Naomi handed me the keys with a flourish. Want to do the honors? I did. We arrived to find Daniel half-drunk, surrounded by half-packed boxes, his designer suits piled haphazardly in trash bags. He looked up, bloodshot eyes widening. You. I stepped over a discarded shoe. Me. For a second I thought he might scream. Might beg. Might fight. Instead he sank onto the floor and cried. Naomi whistled. Damn. That's pathetic. I tossed the keys onto the counter. Bye, Daniel. The door clicked shut behind us. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I bought a billboard in Times Square. Not for advertising. Not for vanity. For revenge. Lydia Capital. Founded by the woman who built Whitmore. In smaller letters beneath, now hiring. Naomi nearly choked on her espresso when she saw the mock-up. You are ruthless. I smiled, signing the contract. No. I'm marketing savvy. Because here's the thing about burning a man's empire to the ground. You get first pick of the ashes. And I'd kept a list of every talented employee Daniel had ever taken for granted. Starting with Claire. Claire arrived at my new office wearing a nervous smile and a Prada skirt suit she'd probably bought with her Whitmore severance. I brought resumes, she said, sliding a folder across my glass desk. I pushed it back. Don't need them. You start Monday. Her eyes widened. You haven't even asked my salary requirements. Double whatever he paid you. I leaned forward. Plus equity. Claire burst into tears. Naomi mouthed holy shit behind her back. I just sipped my matcha. This wasn't kindness. This was strategy. Daniel's former CFO, Richard, took 3 lunches before he caved. Ethically, I should wait 6 months, he muttered over steak tartare at Le Bernardin. I swirled my Pinot Noir. Ethically, he shouldn't have fucked his assistant in your company jet. Richard's fork clattered against the plate. He did what? I blinked. Oh. You didn't know. He signed the offer sheet before dessert. Lydia Capital's launch party was everything Daniel's downfall wasn't. Champagne towers. A-list investors. And the piece de resistance. Margaret Whitmore as our first official board member. She toasted me with a smirk. To new beginnings. Across the room, Naomi high-fived a cluster of ex-Whitmore analysts. The press called it a female empowerment powerhouse. I called it justice. My phone buzzed as the party wound down. Unknown number. I answered anyway. You stole my team. Daniel's voice was slurred. Drunk or desperate, maybe both. I stepped onto the terrace, the Manhattan skyline twinkling below. Funny. I don't recall their names being tattooed on you. A thud like he'd punched a wall. They were mine. Correction. I let the wind carry my words. They were mine. You just borrowed them. Silence. Then so quiet I almost missed it. I have nothing left. I watched a taxi weave through the streets below. I know. And I hung up. A year to the day after Daniel brought Elena to our anniversary party, I received a handwritten letter. The envelope was cheap, the paper slightly crumpled, the ink smudged in places, as if the writer had hesitated, started over, or maybe even cried. I knew who it was from before I even opened it, because Daniel had always loved dramatic gestures. And this was his final one. The letter. Lydia, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to read this. But I need you to know I see now what I lost. Not the money, not the penthouse, not the company. I lost you. And that's the one thing I can never get back. I'm moving to Chicago. Starting over. Or trying to. There's a small consulting firm willing to take a chance on me, though I'm sure you could have them rescind the offer with one phone call. You always were better at this game than me. I heard about Lydia Capital. Of course I did. Everyone's talking about it. I'm proud of you. Or maybe I just missed the version of me that deserved to be. Goodbye, Lydia. Daniel. I read it twice. Then I folded it neatly and tucked it into my desk drawer. Not because I wanted to remember, but because I never wanted to forget how far I'd come. That night, Lydia Capital hosted its first major client gala. The guest list included Fortune 500 CEOs, 2 senators, and the crowning irony, Elena Torres, now a surprisingly competent PR consultant who'd rebranded herself as a whistleblower for corporate accountability. She found me near the champagne fountain. He emailed me last week, she said, swirling her glass. Asked for a loan. I arched a brow. Did you give it to him? She laughed. I told him to call his protégé. We clinked glasses. Some betrayals, it seemed, were universal. The party was winding down when my assistant handed me a note. Margaret Whitmore requests a word on the terrace. I found her staring at the skyline, her silver hair glowing under the string lights. You've done well, she said without turning. I leaned against the railing. I had good teachers. A ghost of a smile. Then, he's selling the wedding ring. I stilled. Pawn shop on 54th, she continued. Apparently, Chicago rent is quite the shock after Park Avenue. I exhaled slowly. A year ago this news would have gutted me. Now it was just another footnote in my story. Later, as the last guests drifted out, Naomi handed me a fresh glass of champagne. To the future Mrs. Whitmore, she teased. I snorted. That name dies with him. Fine. To the future whatever you want to call yourself. She clinked my glass. Which is? I looked around at the glittering remnants of the party, at the team I'd built, the empire I'd claimed, the life I'd reclaimed. Happy, I said simply. And I was. The end.